Panthers plundering the Raiders 36-22. Andy Dalton named starter on Monday. 6 days later, he becomes the first quarterback in the league this year with 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He darn near did all that in the first half. Julian Council from Locked On Panthers joining me after a rare dub. Julian, how surprised were you that everything looked this much better with just one change to the starting lineup, albeit a big one?
Yeah, it's striking, Nick, after what we saw the first 2 weeks this season against New Orleans on the road and last Sunday at home against the Chargers. I felt like the Panthers' offensive line has played well. I feel like the additions of Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt was going to make this a better offensive line, being able to run the football, but more importantly, protect the quarterback. And we didn't see Bryce Young under siege in week 1 or week 2. I felt like the receivers, adding Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, would be able to get open, would be better, would be more dynamic. And we saw them open in week 1 and week 2. We just did not see them get the ball on time. I felt like the run game with Chuba Hubbard as lead back would be good this season. We just did not get to see that, in large part because the quarterback, Bryce Young, did not have confidence in the pocket, did not trust what was in front of him, did not put his players out on the outside or behind him in position to have success. Andy Dalton did that today. He played his 1/11th that Dave Canales wants to see out of the quarterback. So it's surprising based off of what we have seen in the past, but it's really not that surprising based off of they have been set up to have this kind of success based off of the scheme and the additions. We just did not see the quarterback, being Bryce Young, the last 2 weeks, put these guys in a position to actually be able to make plays. And that's why we saw today Andy Dalton just doing the simple things and really doing some spectacular things as well, have the kind of success with this offense in this win against Las Vegas.
Julian, this had a very, and we've had experience with this sort of thing, interim head coach type of feel, I thought, with somebody just coming in and taking the reins and everything's better. How much of this do you think was Dalton's energy? He said after he just wanted to make sure guys were having fun. They were having fun and career games too.
I don't know how much it is his energy as much as it is the belief that the team has in Andy Dalton. It reminds me a couple years ago when the Panthers brought back Cam Newton he wasn't even a starter in that game on the road against Arizona. It was P.J. Walker, but Cam Newton's presence and the belief that those guys who had played with him before, those guys on the field who hadn't even played with him before, had in Cam, just brought a renewed energy in that game against Arizona. We saw an offense that was really good that day. We saw a defense that was inspired, and we saw the exact same thing today. We saw a team that had new energy, had a new hope, and seemed to be inspired by the presence of someone who they believe in. And we have seen in the past in quarterback situations where coaches have said the players will tell me who the quarterback is. They will tell me who they believe in, who they want them to lead them. And clearly, these guys who, yes, voted Bryce Young as their captain, believe that Andy Dalton is the guy that gives them the best opportunity to win, believe that Andy Dalton is their leader. And we saw that today because the defense wasn't good the first couple weeks. You cannot excuse the 9 straight scoring drives. But we saw a completely different energy from that defense today against Las Vegas. We saw special teams being able to make the right executions. And, of course, we saw what the offense did. It's because of the belief in Andy Dalton, not necessarily the energy that he brings, but the belief that the team has in him as their quarterback.
Julian, this week in the NFL, the big story was Bryce Young's benching. I am one of those people who think it was mostly a Dave Canales coaching decision, but for the Teppers, I guess, here's that attention you ordered. What did you make of some of the national pregame shows roasting Carolina today and all week?
Well, it's well-earned, and the Panthers have not done right by Bryce Young since they brought him here. And I understand making this decision, but really when you look at it, the Panthers put Bryce Young in a situation last year where his offensive line, they weren't healthy. They could not control that, but they didn't have the kind of depth that you needed, and the Panthers really struggled to protect Bryce Young. They did not give him weapons. They traded away DJ Moore just to go out there and get him #1 overall. A lot of the decisions the organization has made since they brought in Bryce Young have not benefited him. I don't think that's been the case this offseason. I do think things were set up for Bryce Young to have success, but it's no surprise. Like, the NFL wide media does not believe that David Tepper is a good owner. We have seen his actions from what we saw last year in Jacksonville throwing a drink on a fan. We have seen him walk inside Dilworth Neighborhood Grill right before the draft. We have just seen David Tepper not conduct himself, and this kind of decisions that have been made here in Carolina have led to this team not having success. So I'm not surprised at all that he was lambasted by the national media and all the reports that have come out this past week after the Panthers made a decision to bench Bryce Young, a player who I believe they broke. And after they saw how broken he was, they decided, actually, we're done here with Bryce Young, even though I think the organization is the one who failed Bryce Young, not necessarily Bryce Young failing the Carolina Panthers.
All the insiders had their reports about Bryce Young on Sunday morning. Some say he is done in Carolina. Others say he's going to be given another shot. What do you think is more likely?
Yeah, I loved what Diana Rossini of The Athletic wrote. She said it's not a Ross and Rachel break, that this is Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston done when it comes to the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young's relationship long term. And I tend to agree with her. I know that Adam Schefter of ESPN and Ian Rappaport of NFL Network and Jonathan Jones used to cover the Panthers locally for CBS all had similar lines that the Panthers wanted this to be a temporary break for Bryce Young and not a season-long benching. But after what we saw, and what I said earlier about the team believing in Andy Dalton, like, you're going to have a mutiny on your hands if the Carolina Panthers go back to Bryce Young after what Dalton did this year, but also what he did last year in Seattle. So I just don't see how he's going to have a future here. And Dalton is still young enough to where the Panthers could bring him back next season, have him be that bridge to the eventual franchise quarterback if they're able to identify that player in the next coming years. I just think it's over for Bryce, where it seems like the guys, they believe more in Andy. I don't know if they ever really believed in Bryce this season. And based off of how he's played compared to how Dalton's played in the same offenses the last couple of years, I think that it's over for Bryce Young. It's a nice company line that they put out there to try to have other teams be interested in Bryce. And they'll still be interested because, like, players' draft evaluation, especially as a number one overall pick, typically follows him for a period of time. And Jonathan Jones put this out there that the highest pick the Panthers were offered this week was a fourth rounder, and 4 different teams came out there wanting to trade for Bryce Young. I think it's right now for the Panthers' best interest to keep Bryce around as their backup quarterback, because they don't have anyone else behind him right now that you can trust, even if they don't trust that Bryce that much. This is something that at the end of the season that they decide to move on from Bryce and figure out what they're going to do at quarterback for 2025 and beyond. So yeah, I thought on Monday it was over for Bryce, but after what I saw today, yeah, it's clearly over. I don't care what they tell you over there on Main Street.
We have 16 more weeks to break that down. But for today, Julian, the biggest storyline, Panthers 36, Raiders 22, first win of the season and of the Dave Canales era. My full conversation with Julian up right now on the WCNC Charlotte YouTube page.